this.
So over the past 24 hours in what's felt like a incredibly rushed manner, here's what's happened. Stephanie McMahon resigns from WWE. Now, people made an enormous deal about this, as they should, but people will remember she had actually stepped away, taken a leave of absence, and then when her dad got busted, came back. So I knew that it might be transitional in her role. Still a big deal, no question, out of the blue, maybe not, but felt out of the blue at the time. Then we hear news shortly after. Vince McMahon is coming back. And in her resignation letter, she paints this as good. Because this is an exciting time for the company. As it was pointed out on Twitter by everybody, such a good time for the company that I'm getting the fuck out of here. Fantastic time.
Times are so positive that I refuse to be involved.
yeah. Really got to get off the flying ship. Yeah, okay. We find out that Vince McMahon is coming back, and the hubbub is that he is here largely to handle the sale of WWE, which we have sort of been expecting. I think Zubes, we've predicted Disney, ESPN, whoever. Yesterday, not late night, but in the evening, it starts to bubble up that something between Saudi Arabia is interested in purchasing WWE, which I think we all assumed, and Saudi Arabia has purchased WWE. It has happened right now. It's all over Twitter. Wrestling Twitter has a bit of a meltdown. We sit here today, Wednesday. Dynamite has happened. Zubes, how are you feeling about all this?
It's just crazy to see WWE just this week become problematic and run by bad people.
That's what I hate to see the change.
You hate to see this thing be the thing that makes that happen. Listen, they've been getting Saudi Arabia money for a long time. So like, spare me the indignant outrage about this from anybody. Frankly, it's like that's anybody that's there. Even you could even say there are people that took the stand about going against going to the Saudi shows, and I do respect that. But also, like, your paycheck is still coming from the money from those shows. To be totally blank.
Well, they get so much money from the Saudi Arabia shows.
So much money from Saudi Arabia. So they're already being paid by Saudi Arabia. It's naive of you to be like, this is the thing. But I also totally get, like, full ownership is different than paying for shows. I do also understand that as a difference. I think that it would be great if New York crumbled to the ground and WWE stopped being a thing. So people, similar to like, oh, Twitter's about to go off the rails and we're about to lose Twitter and Twitter won't last through the World Cup. People were like, what a dark day for wrestling. Like, fuck off, frankly. I don't know if WWE, WWF did not invent professional wrestling. There was plenty of pro wrestling before this. There'll be plenty of pro wrestling after this. I would love it if this fucking thing crumbled and turned to dust and the McMahons were no longer a part of the business. That would be fucking great. Did you watch AEW Dynamite tonight? That could be the top show. I would love it if it all crumbled. And listen, this is somebody that hasn't watched in a long time, hasn't paid them a dime since the first Saudi Arabia show. I canceled WWE Network before the first Saudi Arabia show because I was like, I don't want to be a part of this. And I already was giving them basically no money, so I'm going to give them zero money. So good riddance. Fucking bad roaches. I hope it blows up in their face.
As always, said perfectly by the Zubes. No one can ever put it better. I 99% of the way agree with you. There is one thing about the Saudi Arabia deal, and I'll tell you, I'm going to tell you what I actually think about the deal in a moment. But if it goes through in that hypothetical, there's one part of it that would bum me out. They own all the tape libraries.
Sure.
Like, they have it all. And for whatever you want to say about the McMahon-Helmsley crooks, which they are, covering up murders, terrible people,
sex criminals,
to be. What does this mean for ECW? You know, it's sure. Like I say that in a bit of a joking manner, but honestly, like, if this country with backwards, in my opinion, rules as it pertains to how they view women or even like extreme content, like, is Becky Lynch going to be in big shirt mode on Raw? Like, is that the future we're looking at? Because that stuff does become a little like, wow, this big TV show is now bowing to the morals that I don't agree with. Not that they're not doing that behind the screen scenes, but now there's like this on-screen product that it's affecting. That side of it's deeply strange to me, but I largely agree with you. Like, nothing would make me happier than actually, I never thought it would happen. I thought when WCW got purchased, that was it. Like, game over. And let me tell you, TNA did nothing to change that opinion in me. I should have known it would in fact be Vince McMahon himself, maybe with an assist from his doofus son-in-law, that made it happen. So I'm like the Zubes. I hope the place burns to the ground.
And I will. I do want us to give some great credence to your point of like, it's easy for me to be like, okay, my opinion on all of it is fuck it, and I hope it goes away. Easy to do that, but also do have to wrestle with the reality of like, odds are it wouldn't go away. Odds are it would just be, to your point, it probably more likely that it skews your way that it continues to exist and continues to be the biggest brand and is altered in a way that is like very displeasing. I think that is a negative. That is a net negative. There's no question about that, and I don't want to see that happen because, watch it or not, support it or not, cheer for it or not, it does set the tone for what people think wrestling is, and for what people think that we're watching, and for what people think is wrestling in pop culture. That matters. Maybe it doesn't have to matter like the full way, but it does matter in sort of like, what are you supporting sort of conversation. I know we're both mixed martial arts fans. In the last 2 weeks, it's become a little bit of like, what the fuck am I even doing? Like, it sucks to have these things. This happens to football fans as well. Baseball goes on strike. It happens. There's hockey Canada in the news. Like, this shit happens when you follow sports and you follow big enough things where enough money is thrown around. You're going to have these occasional, like, well, what the fuck am I doing giving this my time and money in the first place sort of conversations. And it does matter. I will say, similar to like a lot of things, at my job, we have like a daily news room sort of thing where we talk about what current events are and sort of things that we can either bring into our work or not. I was explaining this today to people and they looked at me like I had two heads. They just like, people thought I was telling them wrestling storylines.
Right. They thought like, you were being worked. They're like, on the wrestling show?
Basically embarrassed for me, right? Exactly right. I'm like, oh, Stephanie left, and then Vince came back, and they're selling it to Saudi Arabians. And the rumor is that Stephanie stepped down because they didn't want a Saudi CEO. People were like, okay. CEO. Yeah, pardon me, they want a female CEO. People were like, okay. And I was like, no, actually. Like, not like, I swear to God, I'm not reading you the storylines from a wrestling show in this important meeting.
This happened.
Yeah. But
the table.
But which is to say, like, I still think this is happening in a bit of a bubble right now. To a degree, it's a sizable bubble, but bubble nonetheless.
I'm not convinced that they are selling to Saudi Arabia.
Today certainly seems to suggest that.
And even yesterday, I'm not trying to be like, oh, I saw this coming. I was like, you couldn't find somebody more excited by this zeitgeist happening than me. I was like a pig in shit. I was rolling in it. So let me get that out of the way. However, it's very WWE, very UFC to leak news and see reaction. So my guess, this is based on nothing. I'm not some sort of insider, but my guess, having followed this stuff for a long time, is that WWE is for sale. They have multiple bidders or at least multiple points of interest. If that includes Disney, if that includes Netflix, if that includes Amazon Prime, whoever's, you think of these things being able to drive audience into your streaming service and the value there. I think this is WWE's way of saying we have a giant investor very interested in purchasing us and letting it be known to whoever else is bidding. Everybody knows with these sports washing issues and the money involved that Saudi Arabia comes with deep pockets. And I think Saudi Arabia is at the table and they could purchase it. Like, I definitely think they're there and offering big money. But I believe, again, based off nothing, that this is news put out there by New York to let people, the other bidders, know there's a big player involved and we might almost be done at this point. That's my best.
I think that's a great viewpoint, and I think you're bang on with that. You see it sometimes in sports rumors of like take a step back from how you feel about the rumor. Who does the rumor benefit? Who benefits from this money being out there? And it's WWE wanting not, maybe not start, but finish a bidding war, if you will. It also allows them a little bit to, the easy comparison to make as a general sports fan is Live Golf, where this golf, Saudi Arabians were like, we'll pay you $100 million to come in 10th place at a golf tournament. And people were like, yeah, see ya. Absolutely. But Live Golf doesn't have American TV, right? It's sort of like it's treated toxically enough, for lack of a better word, that no American networks, despite all the money, picked it up. And WWE, the licensing, not to get to the TV deal, the licensing, because they draw ratings week in and week out, us watching it or not. It's basically behind, it's behind the NBA, it's behind the NFL, but not many other TV shows are consistently drawing 52 weeks a year. The licensing deal is where they make a huge chunk of their money, and if it's also able to not just that you float out the Saudi Arabian rumors to up the price or get someone else to get serious, you also get to test the waters of like, okay, if we did sell to Saudis, would we still get a TV deal?
Right.
Would USA still want to air it? Would people still bid for the rights? Would that change? Would we still, there's a lot of different going to the Saudi Arabians. A lot of questions become unanswered versus you selling it to a television property, and that television property, instead of leasing the content, is buying the content. So I'm with you a day out and settle down. Like, we could have been out here last night and we've just been cackling. I'm with you a day out, a little more like taking a little bit bigger view and feeling a little more cautious about what this means and where it might be going.
Well, and in that vein, like you start to go down the list of what catalogs would be valuable to a streaming service. Okay. So Friends, Seinfeld, The Office, like wherever on that list, WWE, and again, coming with the libraries of WCW, ECW, Smoky Mountain, et cetera, et cetera, et cetera. I don't think it's that far down the list.
Yeah, I would say though.
Yeah,
I don't know that anything other than the Prime WWF tapes really do have that much value.
I agree. I think
literally other than Tony Khan, who on earth it would buy.
Yeah. I think the lapsed wrestling fan, a lot of them came back for the network at one point in time, and I wonder if that could be recreated. But you are also right. It doesn't move the needle like it once does. Streaming is so much more popular on whole now, accessibility online. So yeah, I take your point for sure. Yeah,
and I just feel like a lot of those people, a lot of the lapsed wrestling fan that were like, oh, that back library matters to me. Like, they've had access to it for 8 years.
You're right. Yeah.
You're probably done rewatching. You probably went back. How many times are you expected to rewatch it? Right. Like, when it first came out, I went back and I watched a bunch of old WCW, and then I was like, well, now I've seen that. And like, I had it for a long time before I canceled it, not really watching anything other than NXT pay-per-views. So
we got to get the Zubes doing some ECW Patreon content. That's the money around these parts. That about wraps up my thoughts on this, Zubes. We'll talk more about it this Saturday on Ground Floor Zero. Join Matt and I, 10 a.m. in the West, 1 in the East. We'll cover, I'm sure there's going to be fallout between now and then. There's going to be more news, I guarantee it. You can come right back here, pour coffee in the morning or early afternoon with Maddie and I, and we'll get down, and move.